Okay, this lesson is on Mendel and his peas. So, why don't you look like a rhinoceros? The answer seems simple. Your parents are not rhinoceroses. So, that means that you're not going to be one. Your parents are humans, so you're going to be humans. But there is more to this answer than meets the eye. So we're going to be talking about Gregor Mendel and his studies. He is the father of genetics, and his experiments is what got the talk of genetics started. And what we're going to be looking at is how are traits passed from parents to offspring. And offspring means like the children. So looking at this question, so just seeing what you think. Do you agree or disagree? Number 1, like mixing paints, parents' traits always blend in their offspring. Number 2, if you look more like your mother than you look like your father, then you receive more traits from your mother. Number 3, all inherited traits follow Mendel's pattern of inheritance. So now that you've got your answers, let's see if we can answer a few of those in the next few slides. All right, so here are some early ideas about heredity. Now, what heredity is the passing of traits from parents to offspring. So characteristics are passed down from parents to their children. Gregor Mendel is known as the father of genetics. And pretty much genetics is the study of this heredity. It's the study of how traits are passed from parents to offspring. And this can be a lot more complicated than you think. And what we're getting into in 7th grade is not even touching the surface of how complicated it really gets. I'm giving you the simple version. So you might have curly hair while both of your parents have straight hair. You might have blue eyes even though both of your parents have brown eyes. How does this happen? It's all in genetics. All right, so Gregor Mendel, as we said, is the father of genetics. He was an Austrian monk, studied the inheritance of traits in pea plants. He was very famous for his experiments in pea plants. He developed the laws of inheritance, and his work was not recognized until the turn of the 20th century. So his most famous pea plant experiment. He did these, it was controlled, meaning it was not totally random. He had purpose for what he was doing with the plants. And to kind of give you a background, there are 2 types of pollination. There's self-pollination and cross-pollination. So here's a picture of self-pollination. It's just where the pollen is actually transferred to the same plant, as you see here. When a true breeding plant self-pollinates, it always produces offspring with traits that match the parent. So a true breeding is kind of like you think of a true breed like a dog, a German Shepherd. If a German Shepherd breeds with a German Shepherd, it's going to get a German Shepherd. But Mendel cross-pollinated pea plants himself and recorded the traits that appeared. So cross-pollination occurs when pollen from one plant lands on another plant. But Mendel actually controlled this and decided what pollen went to what plant. He removed the anthers to make sure they did not self-pollinate. So the results. Once Mendel had enough true breeding plants, true breeds, for a trait he wanted to test, he then cross-pollinated selected plants. Plants are called hybrids if they come from true breeding parent plants with different forms of the same trait. So here's an example of here what a hybrid is. So you have a true breed long yellow pepper here, and you have a true breed short red pepper here. And when they come together, they may form a hybrid. So Mendel studied different traits in the plants. He studied seed shape, plant height, flower color, and 7 characteristics altogether, and you can look here at what he discovered. So the first generation, he took 2 true breeds. He took a purple flower and he took a white flower. And whenever he cross-pollinated, the offspring were all purple. So true breed purple, true breed white, and you get all purple. How does that happen? You can also look on page 407 in your textbook if you want to look deeper into that study. So then, that was the first generation. Then he took those purple children, those purple offspring, and then he cross-pollinated those. They were considered hybrid. So he took the hybrid children. He had two purples, and he observed that the offspring of those hybrid crosses always showed traits in a 3-to-1 ratio, meaning for every 3 purple offspring, there was 1 white offspring. Interesting. So if you look at this diagram here, we're going to be talking about this thing here. It's called a Punnett square in a future lesson. You see the first generation, he took a true breed purple, the true breed white, and got all hybrid purple children. Then he crossed 2 hybrids, which is symbolized by the big R, little r, and the offspring showed traits in a 3-to-1 ratio. Here's another picture example. Mendel recorded traits of offspring from many of his hybrid crosses. So he didn't only just look at the flower color, he looked at a lot of things. Mendel concluded that 2 factors, one from each sperm and one from each egg, control each inherited trait. Interesting. Now, these traits, one is considered dominant and one is considered recessive. Dominant is the genetic factor that blocks another genetic factor. A recessive trait is a genetic factor that is blocked by the presence of the dominant. And that's what happened with the white flower. It was a recessive trait. So if the purple gene showed up, then it would take over the white. And that's why in the first generation, there were all purple. We're going to get into more detail about what this dominant and recessive traits, what these are, in the next lesson. So let's review. What method did Mendel use to select which plants pollinated other plants? How did he control? C. Cross-pollination. What is the approximate ratio of dominant to recessive expression when both parents are hybrid? So remember, hybrid was the second generation. What did he find out? C. They were 3-to-1.